Alf, it is another weekend. Welcome everybody. I hope that you all are doing amazingly well wherever you are in the world. Today, we are partnered with PSA, taking a look at the PSA eBay store and some of the gems, as Mr. Burns would say, excellent. Some of the gems, some of the hidden gems there in the PSA eBay store. We're going to look at a variety of different cards and players. I did try to focus this week on just very collectible players. So you're going to see Michael Jordan, you're going to see Barry Sanders, and so forth. A reminder of the great synergy between PSA and eBay to where you can buy cards and then put them in the PSA Vault to sell later on if you want to. Of course, you can also send them home. Or when grading with PSA, and I like to do this, I've got cards there right now. I have 14 cards at PSA where I'm trying to figure out, do I want to send some of them to sell on eBay through the PSA Vault? Do I want to send some home? And so I got to make some tough decisions depending on what the grades are going to be, but that's part of the fun of waiting to see what those grades are going to be and kind of the strategy around that. So just being able to grade cards, send some of them home, send some of them off to sell, it makes it really easy. Remember, if you are a first-time submitter to PSA, use my code SED25 at the shipping and billing screen to save $25 off that first submission. And if you have already submitted with PSA, tell a friend that hasn't submitted with them yet. All right, let's turn the camera around and look at some great cards. Welcome back, friends. It is another weekly episode looking at sports cards on eBay, as Pedro said in Napoleon Dynamite, where all your dreams come true, the PSA eBay store. Sitting here, we're going to start first with the GOAT, one of the most iconic cards in the entire hobby, 1986 Fleer Jordan number 57. This one in a BGS 9.5. Now, I will say I looked at Card Ladder data here, and it looks like there's been sales kind of in that $30,000 range, $30,000 or so. So this one's sitting at $100,000. I'm wondering if it has to do kind of with subgrades and that sort of thing. Very well could be. And this is interesting because the PSA 10s, what are the PSA 10s sitting at? Maybe like $150,000 to $200,000 approximately. So these BGS 9.5s are interesting. I wonder if people are buying these to hopefully crack out, try to get a PSA 10. I'm curious there. So let me know your thoughts on the BGS 9.5, the 86 Fleer. This is a beautiful copy, centered really nicely. And of course, a very important hobby card sitting here at about $99,000. Next up, we have got the all-time leading rusher. I think this stuff is really interesting, especially with Panini kind of exiting out here with licensed NFL and NBA cards starting really at the end of this year and going into 2026. This is a beautiful 2018 Select. It is the gold prism, the Select gold for Emmitt Smith. Of course, it's not playing days in 2018. But this guy is the all-time leading rusher. It is a PSA 9. And I just kind of wonder for a lot of these cards. I have quite a few of these cards, kind of these Panini era cards from 2012, to 2024, the licensed NBA and NFL stuff. And I don't know. I think there's going to be some nostalgia for these types of products. And I just really like this card in general. It is numbered out of 10. It's not a PSA 10. It is a PSA 9, but it's $269 OBO for someone that might want to make a play on some of this. And I'm curious if there's kind of like these hardcore Emmitt Smith collectors in the same way that, we've got hardcore Barry Sanders collectors, but I don't hear as much on the Emmitt Smith side. I wonder why that is. I mean, understandably, Barry Sanders was the more athletically gifted back, but Emmitt Smith is the all-time leading rusher, and he probably, it's always tough to say like records will never be broken, but the NFL, the way that it is now a passing league, I just don't see anybody breaking Emmitt Smith's record. The longevity, how long he played, the guy just stayed healthy. I mean, to have a running back play as long as he did, stay as healthy as he did, and be as productive as he did. And not to say Emmitt Smith cards are inexpensive now, but I just don't see as many Emmitt Smith collectors out there. But help me out in the comment section below. I'm just curious. Maybe there's kind of this underground Emmitt Smith collecting group that maybe I'm not aware of. But I just thought this card is a beautiful card sitting here in the PSA eBay store. We'll stay on Emmitt here for a second because, again, I just thought this was a really interesting card. You've got the 1988 Florida. Of course, he went to the University of Florida there in Gainesville. The Burger King Gators card. These, of course, are interesting to me because, and I look at the 80s as becoming, they are becoming, I know this sounds crazy, becoming more vintage. They're being lumped in with vintage, whereas a lot of longtime collectors, hobbyists will say like, no, the 80s are not vintage. The 80s, 90s, not vintage. But as we age up, the 80s are starting to become more and more vintage. And if you look back at vintage cards going back to the 50s, the 60s, a lot of people do collect, especially vintage baseball. They are collecting these, these off-brand kind of food cards, or, these grocery cards or tobacco cards or whatever, going back in time for baseball. And I wonder if there will ever be a time where the same thing in the basketball side. Michael Jordan, I've got, UNC cards for Michael Jordan that are, specific brands, Coca-Cola cards. And here's an example of kind of a pre-rookie card for Emmitt Smith, but still a really cool card. And again, in a PSA 9, not always easy to get PSA 9s on cards like this, where they probably really weren't taken care of. Nobody was really thinking to take care of these types of cards. So I just wanted to share this one. We'll stay on football. To me, this is an absolutely iconic football card. I don't think that a lot of people would argue with me here. I've actually got a painting on the wall that my mother-in-law painted for me, and it is, of course, the 86 Topps Jerry Rice rookie card. There's just something about the design, the border. It is a kind of a basic design, of course, for collectors nowadays. There's no shine to it. It's not a refractor, but these are still very collectible cards in the hobby. I would love to have a PSA 10 of this card. I think they're now going kind of in that $70,000, $80,000 range, maybe a little bit higher depending. Time of recording, it's sitting at $153 and change with a couple days left. Recent sales about in that $185, $190, $200 range. So could be a little bit of a bargain there if that holds up. But these consistently sell. It's not a mega rare card at all, but it is an all-time card. Jerry Rice, believed to be the best wide receiver of all time. But you have guys coming up on him. Justin Jefferson kind of knocking on the door, but even like Michael Thomas was a guy that had one of the most productive first 5 seasons of an NFL receiver ever. And then injuries hit, never really played a full season again. And so that's what can happen in the NFL. Rice, of course, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about with Emmitt Smith, played for a long time, I think he ended his career with the Raiders, played on a couple different teams. So he did, of course, a lot of his damage with Joe Montana in San Francisco, but, the guy just was able to stay on the field and racked up all sorts of receiving yards, receiving records. And so this is just always going to be a classic card. To me, this is a great collector card. A PSA 8, $150 to $200 is just a great card for a collection. All right, me as somebody with Caitlin Clark cards, I have been buying and speculating on Clark cards here over the last few months. I actually have a few that are at PSA now. I might actually send those to the vault to send over to eBay to sell down the line a little bit, because I have some pretty good volume now of numbered select stuff. I've also got some numbered Prism stuff, and I do own not this particular card, but I've got a numbered fractal insert here, the Prism fractal. I really like the picture on this card where she's kind of pumping her fist and yelling. I just think it's a really great looking insert. And there are different versions of this card, different numbered versions. So this is the base fractal in a PSA 10. There's still, at time of recording, there's 3 days and 9 hours. So it's going to be probably a day or so left. This one in a PSA 10 sitting at $51. But, without getting that numbered version, you can get the base in a 10, and it is a lot more affordable for collectors that just want to get on Caitlin Clark. The one thing about Caitlin Clark cards as well is there's not tons of sets for her. They did just announce that there's going to be Donruss Downtowns, which are going to be highly sought after, just given how popular downtowns are. But, you've got Prism, you've got Select. There's no indication yet that there's going to be National Treasures or Flawless, which I think would be bananas as far as sales go. But, so you've got Prism and you've got Select, very popular Panini era sets for football and basketball. And so this one, just a cool card that's affordable for collectors. All right, next up, we have got the 2024. It is the Prism. It's the logo Prism. This is not a numbered card, and this is the alternative. So she's got 2 different pictures. This is the variation. She's got kind of a shooting stance for her rookie cards, and then she's got this one, number 145. And there's a recent sale here as of June 4th at about $1,500. So this one's sitting at $555. At time of recording, 3 days, 9 hours left. So there will be about a day and a half left on this one. But one thing I have noticed, something to keep an eye on with more and more of these being graded and coming to market, something to keep an eye on is there's a variance in these prices. So sometimes there's consistency where you'll see something, sell for $1,200, $1,300, but you might be able to catch an auction like this one, possibly where it's $900, $1,000. I've had that happen myself where I was watching, PSA 10s for Clark, and they ended up selling for quite a bit less than some of the recent sales, just because they're coming out. They're still a fairly new release, just getting graded. So people are trying to rush them out, get them out to market. I really like the look of the NBA logo Prism here. I just think it's a really cool looking card. So just depending on which kind of version you like, whether it's the 145 here or the shooting stance, another nice Caitlin Clark rookie card. All right, we'll stay on basketball, but let's flip it back. And again, just kind of going to a fun 90s insert. There's so much attention, like we've talked about. There's always attention on PMGs and essential credentials and really the rare numbered stuff. But for collectors that just want to go back in time and get a cool Shaq card that is a nice Topps Finest insert, here's a PSA 10. A lot of people that I've noticed too, they collect PSA 10s of their favorite player, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a mega expensive PSA 10. Like this is an example here. It's $57.95. Buy it now. And you kind of shop around a little bit, but all over the PSA eBay store, you will find cards like this. If you search around here on eBay, there are these cool PSA 10 inserts. I've showcased some for Brett Favre last week and Barry Sanders going back a couple of weeks ago. Here's a Shaq version. There's really cool. We're going to get into some Michael Jordan cards in a second, but 90s insert doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be super expensive. There's a lot of great cards, great designs for players that also just aren't top tier players. It doesn't have to be Michael Jordan. It can be other players as well for collectors to check out. All right, next up, I wanted to check in on this card. We haven't heard about this guy at all. We're in NBA playoffs, deep in NBA playoffs. What is going on with the alien himself, Victor Wembanyama? Everybody hopes that this guy gets better because he's a breath of fresh air watching a guy that plays on both ends of the floor. I've said it before. I really enjoy watching this guy play defense more than offense, and his length and just watching him, go up against a guy like Giannis, who is huge, and making Giannis look small. It's just wild to watch. And this is it's a cool card. Look, this is kind of, to me, this is the flagship rookie card. It's the Prism Silver. It isn't a PSA 10. I think it's going to be just, PSA 10 silvers. And again, this is kind of last year of licensed Prism. It's just not going to be the same moving forward. And I think people will harken back to, these Prism silvers, especially. It was always an important Prism type card is that silver version. Of course, you have all the numbered, all the different color versions, but this is an important card. So recent sales on Card Ladder sitting at about $700. So this one at $899 OBO, I'm assuming probably would take less than the $899, but that's where it's sitting right now at $700. It hasn't dropped as much as I thought that it could, just because of the uncertainty around this guy. People have not bailed on this card. I thought this could be a $500 card potentially in the short run, just not knowing kind of what's going on, with him. But here we are, and he is still kind of hanging out there. This card at $700, even with more and more of these being graded. I mean, don't forget, I think like Victor Wembanyama has been graded more now than like he's in the top 10 all time of athletes that have been graded according to gem rate data. And he's only got, a year and a half of cards or something. It's incredible. So to see this card still holding up at $700, it's pretty amazing. All right, we talked about Emmitt Smith, and when we mentioned, Barry Sanders earlier, this is one of my all-time favorite cards ever. Of course, it's 89 score Barry Sanders rookie card. And this is an opportunity, again, because this card is not a rare card, the 89 score. And you see a lot of this with junk wax era type cards where people will get the autograph version. I actually have, I believe is it 87 Topps? I'd have to pull it out. But it's Greg Maddox rookie card, and it's autographed with that on-card kind of the in-person auto, and it's a 10-10. So it's a PSA 10 and also an auto 10. And I would really love to have this card either in a near mint 9 with an auto 10 or a 10-10, this Barry Sanders 89 score. Last I checked, I think the 10-10 for this was about $3,000, $3,500, something like that. I don't know where it sits now, but just the 89 score PSA 10s are like $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. So this is kind of a cool add-on here. If you've got an autograph, Barry Sanders signs a lot, so it's not as if he's got a rare autograph or anything like that. But for a collector that's looking to kind of, scale up this card, this would be cool to own. And it's a card that I would like to own at some point. This one being a PSA 8 with the auto 10. It's got a beautiful autograph on it, and they're asking $500 or best offer. We'll stay on Barry, and I don't know if it was just the way that this picture was taken, but it just looks amazing. It's 2022 Prism. It's light blue Prism for Barry Sanders. Of course, it's not playing days, but just the color match on this card. And again, I think for people that are just collecting PSA 10s, for Barry Sanders, this one they're asking $149 or best offer. I'm sure there's probably some room there. Let's see. They've got PSA data here. How many 10s are there? So there's 10 10s that exist. And look, I mean, I know what people might say is, oh, well, there's so many different variations of this card. It's not playing days. And I totally get that. But I just thought aesthetically, this is a great looking card. Barry Sanders kind of getting out of the backfield, about to make a cut downfield. And just that color match, beautiful Prism, light blue, going with the, with the Lions light blue. hell of a card for a collector that, look, maybe you don't have, huge money for 90, for a PMG, version, going back to 90s inserts. This is just a really great looking card. So I wanted to share it. All right. I said we'd cover Michael Jordan here. This one is at auction. And I like this card because it's got the 90s flair without the 90s price tag for, some of the very expensive insert cards and parallels from the 90s for MJ. Great shooting shot of him, chromium card. It is 98 Topps Chrome. It's a back-to-back insert in a PSA 10 with 6 days left at time of recording. It's sitting at $90. What is the population report for this card? There's 405. So there's a decent amount of these out there. But again, I can't stress it enough. There's a lot of people that I know that like to collect PSA 10s of their favorite player. And you can get cards like this where it's the GOAT. This is like the top of the food chain for players. If you're player collecting as far as price points and all that sort of a thing, it's Michael Jordan. But there are affordable options out there. It doesn't mean that you have to have an 86 Fleer or an 84 Star or a PMG or whatever it is. There's a lot of options for Michael Jordan. He has a lot of cards over the years and a lot of great cards. The 90s especially, there's such great designs that came out of the 90s. And so I wanted to showcase a great card here of MJ. And we'll finish here of a set that I bought a lot of packs of because this is Shaquille O'Neal's rookie card is in here as well. It's a 92 Fleer Ultra, and this is just nostalgia for me. So again, just kind of staying on that PSA 10 train for a Jordan collector that is kind of looking at the early 90s when Jordan was just starting to win titles. 91 was the first one, just kind of getting into that first trilogy, that first three-peat for Jordan, of course. And then in the late 90s, he finished out with the second three-peat. But this one at $175 or best offer. And just looking at, again, just a classic set, nostalgic set. It's not a rare, super rare, it wasn't limited print or anything like that. There's 1,100 10s, of this card. There's about 1,809. So if you're looking for even less of a price point here, kind of a lower price point, I'm sure the 9s, a mint copy, are, very, very affordable. And it is of the GOAT. So I wanted to make sure that I showed kind of a variety of cards for highly collected players. That was really kind of my focus for this week's. As we were looking at the PSA eBay store this week, don't forget to tell friends SCD25 promo code at the shipping and billing screen to take $25 off that first submission with PSA. Take advantage. And like I said in the beginning of the video, you can do so much now with PSA and eBay. You can buy cards that are $250 or more on eBay, send them direct to PSA so you're not shipping back and forth and insuring and doing all that stuff. It's just becoming more and more easy to access PSA grading and to be able to very easily buy cards, vault them, and everything. It's just all at your fingertips, or send them home. Friends, have an amazing day ahead. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.